was it Ohio? I don't know, we're starting to see this. The FDA is getting all upset about it. One of the primary nicotine nannies, John Basnoff, is preparing a class action suit on it. And there are legislators now banning them, which proves beyond any doubt that this is not about secondhand smoke. This is, again, about not even wanting anyone to see somebody else smoking and making smokers into pariahs. Here we have something that is effective in that it satisfies the nicotine craving. It is safe in that it cannot affect anybody around you. And yet the anti-tobacco, the anti-smoker forces are fighting it tooth and nail. Why?
It's a great question.
I think change is frightening, right?
I think it's actually simpler. I've been dealing with these people, sometimes one-on-one. These people hate smokers. They hate smokers like the Klan hates black people.
So where does that come from?
Well, I don't know. I think there's basically two ways that you can feel good about yourself. And one is to go out there and accomplish things and do things and then say, oh, look what I did. Look what I accomplished. And the other is to look down on people. It used to be acceptable to look down on people because they were a different race. It used to be acceptable if they were gay or they had a particular religion or whatever. There's all these reasons that you could look down on people. I am superior to you because I am a white heterosexual and you are a black homosexual. Therefore, I am better than you. None of that is socially acceptable anymore. So now you got to find another reason to hate people. There are some people that are involved in the movement that are truly concerned and they really think they want to help people. But most of the people that I've dealt with, I mean, I've dealt one-on-one with James Repace, who has made hundreds of thousands of dollars being an anti-smoker and supplying the anti-smoking movement with some of the most ridiculous studies you've ever seen. He's the guy that claims that you need 300-mile-an-hour winds to clear the smoke out of a smoking room, so ventilation can't work. A lot of the folks who are involved in this, there's basically two motivations, and one of them is pure, unadulterated hatred. The other, of course, is money. You got people like Stanton Glantz, who has brought in tens of millions of dollars in studying fees for his university in Berkeley in California. You've got the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which is the charity arm of Johnson & Johnson. And they like to very quietly behind the scenes fund smoking bans and increase taxes. Because every time that happens, there will be some people that quit or try to quit. And when they try to quit, they typically use Nicotrol and the patches and the lozenges and the inhalers and the breakfast cereals and all the other things that they have, which are insanely profitable. And Robert Wood Johnson is funding this at arm's length away from Johnson & Johnson. That's a connection that has never been explored by the mass media. And it's a very, very profitable thing for them to do because their funding comes from $5 billion worth of Johnson & Johnson stock. That's billions with a B. Whenever a ban goes in East Podunk and somebody says, well, I'm going to go to the drugstore and I'm going to buy this pack of nicotine gum for $40 for 100 sticks. The Johnson & Johnson is pocketing, probably $25 in profit on that easily. And that goes into their dividends, which goes into Robert Wood Johnson's account. So yeah, there's a huge amount of money now in the anti-smoking movement. And that is one of the motivations. But when you're dealing with just your garden variety nicotine nanny, I find in a lot of cases they're just losers who need people to look down on. And looking down on smokers is socially acceptable.
Celene had asked, what about the additives in cigarette? And she asked if they were transparent about that. The other thing is, there was a a study that a friend of mine told me about in 1999, that he chewed tobacco, I chew tobacco currently, and did then. And he read this study. It's by a pretty esteemed journalist. His name is Ronald. I don't know how to pronounce it. Kotulak is his last name. The study is titled "Everyone is Genetically Vulnerable to Addiction," and basically, he's trying to say that people are genetically disposed to either having like addictive genes or non-addictive genes, and this would explain why we all have stories of, someone had a grandmother that lived till she was 150 and she smoked since she was 2 years old, and there are other stories you hear of people who smoked for 2 years and then immediately got lung cancer. And so this study was attempting to make sense of that, and kind of did. Any thoughts on that, on genetically being predisposed to addiction or not?
I don't know enough about it to say. There's a huge amount of variability from individual to individual. The fact that, Grandma lived to 92 and smoked a pack a day, you can't use that to say, well, everybody should smoke, any more than you can say, oh, the guy who died of lung cancer at 45, I don't think you can say, oh, nobody should ever smoke. They're two extremes, and I don't think either of them are really quite lined up with reality.
Well, on that line, don't you think that is really the position of the anti-secondhand smoke movement, is that there is no predictable amount of tobacco ingestion with all of the chemicals that they've added that would make it safe for everybody. And that would be why the protection of all over the sickness of few kind of took precedence.
When you look into the science behind secondhand smoke, it simply doesn't stand up.
Because it was basically meta-analysis.
Well, let me correct that, because it's not all meta-analysis. There's also something called publication bias, which says that if you do a study and it shows that there is no correlation between cause A and effect B, it's very unlikely to even get published. Or if it gets published, it takes 4 or 5 years to get it published. Whereas if you find that there's a 20% correlation, which again is below what epidemiology can measure accurately, that will get published. And then the media will pick up on it, and journalists are generally pretty ignorant of statistics and just tend to parrot whatever is fed to them. There are a lot of individual studies. Meta-analysis is one of the favorite ways of when you have a lot of studies that are on both sides of the fence because the results are so close to zero. Then you can use meta-analysis to cherry-pick all the ones that are positive. And you can always find reasons to reject a study because it's not possible when you're studying human behavior to get 100% accuracy. So we can say, well, this one wasn't accurate, this one wasn't accurate, oh, this one was good. And you can cherry-pick all the ones that you want and then basically throw them in a blender and pull out any numbers that you like. And that's what's done with meta-analysis. So anything that's meta-analysis, anything that says, and it won't always be defined that way, anything that says a study of studies or, looked at a group of studies on any subject, not just tobacco smoke, any subject, you should pretty much just say, no thanks, just it's garbage and get rid of it.
All of this attention on cigarettes and not having critical analysis on it by most of the population. What if we were to put that energy into something that was actually truly productive, or if the concern truly was about health, then why is it taking us so long to look at healthcare industry outside of the insurance companies' ideas of what health should be like? And why are we not doing more about our fast food nation? And what about the studies that have shown that being so judgmental is harmful for your endorphin levels? I mean, why all this attention on something that is generally unresolved as an argument?
Well, I mean, that's always a question. How are you going to spend your resources? Probably the least understood part of economics is opportunity cost. Simply put, if I spend $15 on a pizza, I don't have $15 that I can spend on a CD. It applies to everything, including time and energy.